Jambo, Sayubona, Hotep, and Shalom. As many say in the United States, hello. Welcome, everyone. When I came in, I noticed that there was a sea of Nubian queens, just coutoured for the motherland and this Black History occasion. This is a wonderful time to come together. We're about to embark upon a journey, a vision made reality with our hosts, the women of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated, Gamma Delta Chapter. I'm Leslie Owens Harrington, your artist program facilitator, and I am blessed to be called to this place at this time and be here with you. I know God has nothing but glory that He plans to get out of us gathering together today. So I'm waiting for my testimony, waiting for my testimony. Before you begin your meal, we have salutations, followed by the singing of the National Black Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. And at that time, we ask that everyone please stand. Our first verse will be led by three lovely young ladies, Layla Cooper, Callie Wellman, and Miani Wellman. A copy of the anthem is in your program so that we can join in on the second verse. And there's a green arrow that indicates that. So if you use the QR code on the back of your table number, you can get right into the program and scroll down just towards the bottom and you'll see Lift Every Voice and Sing so that we can join in as well. Immediately following, the prayer will be given by Mrs. Gwendolyn Cody Davis so that we can then begin enjoying this wonderful luncheon event. I now present Dr. Cynthia Litz. You know what? Oh, I know. I have been going over this name over and over and over again. Okay, so I'm going to start again. I now present Dr. Cynthia Stitchcomb, event co-chair and past president of Gamma Delta Chapter. She brings greetings.
Greetings, Soros, family, and friends. Welcome to Black History Month and to Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Gamma Delta Chapter event for Black History Month. I'm glad that you're here today. Just a few administrative announcements as I welcome you, just to remind you guys that we do have emergency exits this way if there should be an emergency. And also our restrooms are at the rear of the back here behind the bar. Go up the stairs and you will see a sign that says restroom. Okay? So again, we're happy that you're here and just sit back, relax, and enjoy history. History made right in this area of Richmond. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Stitchcomb. Now, as you hear the stirring sounds of the national anthem, Whose Blood Built This Place by Joe Scott, and Up the Mountaintop by Patty Griffin, two Grammy Award-winning artists, be immersed in the environment provided by this audio aesthetic, and we will begin enjoying our
please remain standing for the blessing of the food? Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful day and this time. We thank you for the food that has been so well prepared for us today for our temples. And we thank you for the fellowship that would nourish our soul. It's in Jesus' name that we glorify you. Amen and amen. You may be seated.
We are going to go up by table. I'm going to start just right over here to my left and cross around. So table one, would you please rise?
Great. We do also have a few other people that are on the executive board. We have our Dean of Intake, Ms. Charlene Walters. We have our Correspondence Secretary, Ms. Monique Samuels. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yes, we have our first Vice President, Ms. Cynthia Rollins. Our second Vice President, Ms. Kimberly Jordan. All right, thank you and continue to enjoy, and we will be with you all momentarily to continue with the program.
Well, what a treat. I didn't actually partake yet, but I saw all of it and it looks delectable. The women of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated, they spared nothing. Every nuance was taken care of. It was Chair Renee Cooper, would you please come forward and begin navigating us further on the enriching journey that we're headed in this moment in Black history.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here with us this evening. It is truly a pleasure to see you all in your African garb, looking absolutely handsome, you men, and wonderful and beautiful, my beautiful, beautiful Black sisters. Thank you all. I have the great pleasure of introducing our special guest speaker for this afternoon. This woman is the co-founder of the JXN Project. She is also the assistant curator of film and special programs with the Institute of Contemporary Art at Virginia Commonwealth University and the executive director of the Africana Independent Film Festival. She is also the executive director of the Africana Independent Film Festival, which holds the distant honor of being the first and only Black film festival in Richmond, Virginia, hosting a variety of pivotal cultural figures such as Angela Davis and Nikki Giovanni. Although a grassroots effort, Africana has been held as the premier space for Black arts and culture in the city, while quickly becoming the regional hub for Black indie cinema. She is also the founding chair of BLKRVA, a Richmond Region tourism initiative designed to connect Richmond residents and visitors with Black-owned businesses in the area. She and her work has been featured in local and national publications such as Style Weekly, Huffington Post, BET, Essence, Black Enterprise, Travel Noir, The Root, and Virginia Currents on PBS. She is the recipient of the 2024 Richmond Regional Tourism Cultural Enrichment Award and was recently recognized by Axios as one of the most powerful Richmonders of 2022, as well as one of 2021 People to Meet by Virginia Business Magazine. She also received the 2020 VCIC Humanitarian Award, as well as the 2020 Richmond Times-Dispatch Strong Voice Award. She is also the recipient of Style Weekly's Women in the Arts Award and Top 40 Under 40. However, her greatest accomplishment is being a mother to her son, Jonah, a recent college graduate and aspiring film actor. I just want to talk about the JXN Project for a moment. The JXN Project is a research-based, reparative, historic preservation nonprofit organization that is powered by two daughters of Richmond, who also happen to be sisters, Dr. Sesha Joy Moon and Anjali J. Moon, or more commonly called the Moon Sisters. JXN has been highlighted by PBS NewsHour, Time, the Boston Globe, and 2021 Pulitzer Prize winner Valentine Museum's 2022 Richmond History Makers Award for achieving our quality of life, and Historic Richmond's 2021 Golden Hammer Award for Best Placemaker. An honor also shared the Kahidi Wiley's Rumors of War. JXN is also a grantee as part of the Mellon Foundation's Monument Project and received the Award of Excellence as part of the 2022 Leadership in History with the American Association of State and Local History. If that is not more than enough to give our greatest welcome and appreciation for the amazing speaker of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for Mrs. Anjali Moon.
Hello, everyone. Hello. How are you? Good. I'll probably see you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that gracious introduction. I know that most of you are probably surprised to see me here, as it was supposed to be Brother Gary Flowers giving this keynote speech today, but he was actually called to DC on a crisis mission, really, to help strategize how it is that Black and brown people are going to navigate the next 4 years given the current climate. And so he offers his greatest apologies, his most sincere apologies. He is with us in spirit. I am thankful that he gave me a call and asked would I stand in his stead, and I will do my very best to make him proud and to have an engaging conversation with you all today. I will be transparent. I am fresh off the plane from Senegal, been there for 4 months. So I've been working to get myself prepared over the last 24 hours for this event. So I'll just ask for grace as we talk to each other and learn a little bit more about Jackson Ward, its history, the work of the Jackson Project, and what it means to be in this historic space whose story has been grossly undertold on a local level, regional, and indeed nationally. As we all understand the significance of Jackson Ward, I feel like sometimes we start the story of Jackson Ward from a specific space. You know, we talk about Maggie Walker, then we kind of, in that post-Civil War moment, and then we kind of skip to the Harlem of the South moment. But oftentimes we don't understand the origin story of Jackson Ward, which is complex, which is storied, and it hasn't had the level of attention put on it. But it's key. It's key not only to Richmond and Virginia's history, but the reality is that Richmond is the birthplace of the Black American story. When we think about this region and we understand that it is in 1619 that the first people, first enslaved Africans landed on this continent, and we understand then that it is Richmond that commodified those bodies. It is here that was the hub of commerce centered around what it meant to sell enslaved Africans. We begin to quickly understand the pivotal role that Richmond and Virginia has played in the foundation of this country. We typically look at that through the lens of the founding fathers. We are home to right many presidents, but we don't necessarily talk about it through the lens of the Black contribution. When we talk about Black excellence, when we talk about Black resilience, it is really birthed out of this space. So I will do my best to present and represent that today. We can go to the first slide. Please feel free to pay attention to the slideshow. I'm going to do my best. I might need to put my glasses on to read some of this information that's shared. So I won't introduce myself again. That was very gracious of you. I'm very thankful to be, yes, a daughter of Richmond, born and raised here. I spent the first 10 years of my adult life, really from 20 to 30, actually in Jackson Ward, working with a space called the Croaker Spot. I was an operations manager there. For those who don't know, Croaker Spot is a Richmond institution. It is a seafood restaurant, but it is connected to an over 100-year lineage of Black entrepreneurship, starting with the Eggleston Hotel that actually was located right across the street. It's now Pack's Kitchen. And there, Never Eggleston Sr. Created a space, a safe space for Black people locally and those who are traveling through the city to not only come and lodge in a space that was done with a level of class and sophistication, but also to have meals prepared that brought that same level of sophistication to the table. He had a son, Never Eggleston Jr., who became a quite prolific businessman throughout Richmond. He opened the Eggleston Motel, along with a host of other businesses throughout Jackson Ward and the city. And that gentleman had a son named Never Eggleston III. And he is the one who started Croaker Spot, Sugar's Crab Shack, Mr. Bojangles, and all those wonderful spaces that some of you all may know about. And so it is under that tutelage, under the tutelage of Never Eggleston III and the connection to that legacy, that I really cut my teeth on Jackson Ward and understanding what it meant, yes, to Richmond, but what it meant to Black people. I knew it growing up. My father, his name is August Moon. My mother is Dr. Michonne Moon. And they were very intentional about making sure that we were exposed to Black Richmond, that we were active, that we understood the importance of advocacy. But it wasn't until my work in Jackson Ward that I understood the truly pivotal role of it in the level of pride that Black Richmonders have throughout the city. Also with that, I thought I knew quite a bit about Jackson Ward. You know, I'm there for 10 years. This family knows quite a bit. It was a space of celebration for the contributions of Black people. And so when the Jackson Project came on board, I was shocked at the amount of information that is, quite frankly, not accessible. And so we were really honored to be led to this project. We can go to the next slide. I do want to talk a little bit about the other co-founder, my sister, Dr. Cecia Joy Moon. I really hope I can see this. I might have to so I'll just read her bio. Dr. Cecia Joy Moon, who serves as JXN's co-founder and executive director, also served as the director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion for the U.S. House of Representatives. Prior to being appointed by Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she served as Chief Diversity Officer for the National Institute for Standards and Technology with the U.S. Department of Commerce. She holds an MS and BA in Black Studies from Virginia Commonwealth University and a PhD from ODU. And she currently is in programs with both Harvard and Cornell University. She is a Senior Fellow of the Executives of Government Fellowship with the Partnership for Public Service and and Senior Research Fellow with the Conference, the Board of Engagement. I'm gonna have to get my computer. I cannot see that, I'm so sorry. But in short, Cece's hot stuff, right? She really is. She is sharp, she is smart, and she is a true, her foundation is in research. And that foundation proved itself to be pivotal to the formation of Jackson and the work that it's done and is continuing to do. As it said, she served as the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for the U.S. House of Representatives until the Republicans voted her job void. And so she now is currently doing work with Jasmine Crockett as well as Stacey Abrams and really working very hard to ensure that on a national level, much like Gary is doing today, that Black people have a foundation to stand on and have a blueprint, have a bit of a map for how we're going to navigate the next 4 years and beyond. So just quickly, in addition to Jackson, as Renee mentioned, I do have a film festival. It's called the Africana Independent Film Festival. We had the pleasure of starting here in 2013. And over the years, we have grown. We started as one short film at a gallery, different gallery each month. And over the years, we're able to evolve into a multi-day film festival. We also had other programming that we offered, such as our Evening with an Icon. You see this photo here with Tracy Cottom, as well as Angela Davis. That was a part of our Evening with an Icon series, where we brought also Sonia Sanchez and Nikki Giovanni in connection with ICA. We also have something called Taste of Liberation Dinner. This is where we explore the diasporic Black story through the space of food. We look at food as a storytelling device, as a space where tradition is held, but also where creativity and excellence gets an opportunity to thrive. We've also done some installations here. You see Her Flowers, which was a mural project that was done in 2020 in the wake of the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor protests. We highlighted 98 women who lost their lives to the hands of police across the country. This was a mural that was on display in the Valentine Garden over the fall of 2020. And it was really beautiful because we were able to bring together 8 Black male artists to give these women their flowers in this project. It was quite lovely. And then in the middle there, you'll see our team. It is not a one-woman show at all. And that is us at the monument, or the plinth of the monument before they decided to dismantle it. And then lastly, you'll see a photograph in that bottom right corner where the team, we ventured off to Senegal, as I mentioned. We had the good fortune to be included as a part of the Dakar Biennale that just passed. We hosted an event. We were able to bring film and filmmakers from Richmond and the US over to Dakar in partnership with other West African filmmakers. It was lovely. So, before we get started, I'm going to play a video. It gives you a bit of an introduction to Jackson, its work, what we've done since our founding in 2020. It'll give also a bit of a foundation for some of the stuff we'll talk about today.
The Jackson Project, known as Jackson for short, is a reparative historic preservation organization dedicated to research, restorative truth-telling, and redemptive storytelling. Birthed by the Moon sisters, Anjali Moon and Dr. Sisha Joy Moon, two Richmond natives, the project is committed to uncovering lesser-known origin stories and properly contextualizing the pivotal role of Richmond, Virginia in the Black American narrative, a region where, it is said, 1 in 4 Black Americans can trace their roots. Jackson's research is focused on Jackson Ward, the nation's first historically registered Black urban neighborhood located in the heart of Richmond. Jackson launched in 2021 as part of the 150th anniversary of the ward. And to honor the neighborhood's sesquicentennial, Jackson hosted a year of programming, including community celebrations, panel discussions, and the installation of 15 honorary street designations. One of those is a tribute to Abraham Peyton Skipwith, who became the area's first Black homeowner in 1793. Skipwith lived a remarkable life, and as Jackson's research unearthed more of his history, he quickly emerged as the project's anchoring ancestor. In addition to owning a home in the South in the 1700s, he managed to secure his own freedom in 1789 in the wake of the American Revolution, while also becoming one of the first Black men with a fully executed will in the state of Virginia. The gambrel roof cottage Skipwith erected at 400 Duval Street, known as the Skipwith Roper Cottage, stayed in his family's hands for over 100 years and in Black stewardship until 1958, when the home was forcibly condemned and displaced in order to construct the Richmond-Petersburg Turnpike, now I-95. The home avoided demolition, but encountered a more nefarious fate, as it was dislocated to a former tobacco plantation once owned by the Secretary of War for the Confederacy. Considering this storied history, Jackson has launched the Skipwith Roper Homecoming, an initiative that endeavors to reconstruct the cottage for interpretive purposes, bringing the tangible history of Abraham Peyton Skipwith back to its rightful home in the heart of Jackson Ward, as a national landmark that will properly honor his life, lineage, and legacy. The reconstructed Skipwith Roper Cottage will serve as a historical, architectural, and cultural attraction, consisting of an environmentally sustainable structure with on-site parking, operational offices, and outdoor green space designed for community engagement and placemaking. Jackson sees Abraham Peyton Skipwith as the founding father of Jackson Ward, laying a foundation for the legacy builders to follow. The project is working to ensure he and his home are held with the same reverence bestowed upon this country's more traditionally recognized forefathers. Jackson believes the Skipwith Roper Cottage is Black America's Mount Vernon and Monticello, and in that same spirit, hopes that the reconstructed cottage will emerge as a destination of choice in 2026, when the United States commemorates the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. To learn more about this journey and how you can be a part of the Homecoming Initiative, please visit thejacksonproject.org and follow the project on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Jackson Project.
Just a little bit about, maybe I'll start with Richmond, and talk a little bit about the founding of this city. It's pivotal to understand how Richmond started as it laid the foundation for what it is now, and the ebbs and flows it's encountered over multiple generations. So, the Powhatan tribe called the Falls of the James River, the Powhatan tribe called the Falls of the James River in Central Virginia home years prior to the state's colonization in 1607. As many of us know, it was Britain who was expanding across the globe, colonizing a host of different spaces globally, and they set their sights on North America. They were not the first people to attempt to colonize the space, of course, as Spain and Portuguese were here first. However, I guess you could say the Portuguese kind of slept on the space that they attempted to take over, and they were not able to maintain their foothold. And so the establishment of of North America as we know it began to take hold in 1607. In 1673, a gentleman from Europe, very wealthy gentleman by the name of William Byrd, came over and took possession of a great deal of land along the James River. Yes, here in Richmond, but that land expanded all the way down to Petersburg. He owned almost everything. You all may be familiar with his name. Have you heard of the Byrd Theater? Yeah. Byrd Park? All of that is named after William Byrd. He passed that land down to his children and his grandchildren. And we'll talk a little bit more about William Byrd III. He ends up playing a kind of pivotal role in the formation of Jackson Ward. The city was named Richmond because it mimicked an area in Europe called the River Thames in Richmond. It was on Richmond Hill in England. And as we all know, we kind of talked about already, the first enslaved Africans arrived here in Virginia at Point Comfort in 1619. As we know, as most of us know, these people came here really, they were just used as trade. You had people on the boat who were out of food, they were out of water, they were out of rum, and they needed to figure out something to trade. And so they decided to trade these people. And so with that, we saw the birth of what became the triangle slave trade here in the United States. One thing that we often don't talk about is the importance of Shockoe Bottom, and it being one of the largest trading hubs in the country for the transatlantic slave trade. It was right down at Osborne's Landing. And if anyone ever does the Commonwealth Trail, you'll run right past it. But it kind of, and while they talk a little bit about the history and some of the signage, it doesn't do anything to really elevate the importance of that space and the tragedy of that space, which we find a great deal of in Richmond, as Richmond itself is a historical campus. There's so much that has happened all across this city, and we don't talk about it enough. So Jackson hopes to do its part in putting a little drop in that bucket. And then here, as was mentioned by Renee, 1 in 4 Black people can trace their roots back to the Richmond region, as it was its primary hub for the trade. Over 350,000 Africans being sold downriver in the slave trade between 1690 and 1860 from this space alone. So, talk a little bit. If you can skip forward for me, please, to the project. Go forward again, please. There we go. Okay, so a little bit about the Jackson Project. The project that we did not set out to do. So as I mentioned, I have a film festival called Africana, and in 2020, we turned 5. But we all know what happened in 2020. We were encountered with COVID, and so everyone had to pivot. And so for most people, that pivot meant going digital. We were no exception. However, it was an anniversary, and so I really wanted to find a way to bring community together in a safe way. And so I had this idea to do projections in different neighborhoods across the city. People could ride past, do it safely, but for each of those neighborhoods, I also wanted to include Black facts. So I reached out to Seisha, said, hey, can you do a little research, find 10 Black facts for each of these neighborhoods. One of those neighborhoods happens to be Jackson Ward. While she's doing that research, she calls me and she's like, hey, do you know who Jackson Ward is named after? I was like, yeah, I've always been told to Giles B. Jackson. Now this is what I learned in my time at Kroger Spire. Most Black people in Jackson Ward held Giles B. Jackson as the namesake for the ward. She goes to confirm that, can't be confirmed. So we do a little more digging, attempt to find who is it named after, and the information is just not readily available. So that took us down a bit of a rabbit hole, and opened what was a Pandora's box, and took us down this pathway to learn more about not only Jackson Ward and its naming convention, but also its origin story. So what we essentially found was that Jackson Ward, this space that is this celebration of Black excellence, Black entrepreneurship, was actually named after Stonewall Jackson, the Confederate general. That's what we said. Okay. Like, what? But as you continue to do the research, it all begins to make sense. Because one of the other things that we found was that this area, where Jackson Ward, was actually formed on April 17, 1871. So this is right after the Civil War. We're on the heels of the Civil War. We're also right at the moment where it's the birthing of the Lost Cause. So a little backstory on the formation and the layout of Richmond at the time. Actually, can we go forward a little bit? Again. Go to where you see the maps. So what we learned is that Richmond was really formated of a group of wards, and there were 5 wards, all named after the presidents, the sons of Virginia, for the most part. But here we are, post-Civil War, amendments coming down, Black people now being empowered with Black men being empowered with the ability to vote, and to move a bit more freely throughout the space. This, of course, begins to frighten and enrage white Richmond. And so they have to figure out a way to essentially suppress Black power. And so with that, they create the 6th and final ward of the city, Jackson Ward. They decide to do this in a way that honors the history and that honors the future that they hope Jackson Ward and Richmond will represent, which is one of Black suppression and white power. No better person to help elevate that than a namesake like Stonewall Jackson. So one would think, with a statue of Stonewall Jackson that once lived on Monument Avenue, with schools and spaces named after Stonewall Jackson, that information would be somewhat readily available. We found it quite interesting, let's say intentional, let's also say nefarious, that information was not living in spaces where we could get access to it. We reached out to a host of different historical spaces in Richmond. Well, I don't want to say they knew and didn't tell, but maybe they knew and didn't tell, and left us to our own devices to do that work. But give thanks, this was an ancestrally led project from the beginning. And so the ancestors guided us to the spaces that we needed to go to find the information that we needed. Now keep in mind, this is all just for Africana at the time, for the 10 Black Facts. But the more we dig, the more we learn about the naming convention, the more we learn about the origin story of the ward, and the more that we realize that most people who love Jackson Ward, who understand the history of Jackson Ward for the most part, do not know this. We understand that maybe there's a little more digging to do. And so we continue to do that digging. And a part of that, as I mentioned, was us finding the date of April 17, 1871. We found this in 2021, about 2 months before what would be the 150th anniversary of the formation of Jackson Ward. And so in acknowledgement of this information, we decided to do a celebration. Go forward one more, please. before we go to the next slide, I do just want to show you all these maps so that you can see a pictorial depiction of what those wards look like before and after. This first photo here, you see the 5 different wards. You see Monroe Ward, Clay Ward, Jefferson Ward, all these different spaces. But what we have to understand is that during this time, there are Black people all through it. And this is because of something, urbanized enslavement that was taking place pre-Civil War. So we have to remember that Richmond was an industrial hub. And as this industrial hub, they needed manpower. What better way to get manpower and free manpower than to lease out people who were enslaved out further out in Henrico, Chesterfield, and parts of Richmond that had not really been developed yet. Excuse me. And so you had these people on these, the flour mills, you had Tredegar, you had a host of different spaces that needed manpower, and so they would lease people out, bring them here to the city. You couldn't take them back and forth. Remember, this is horse and carriage times, right? So you're not going back and forth every day. These people end up setting up shop and living in these rental spaces in the area that would become Jackson Ward. And so over time, people are able to make a little money. This is what I like to call the birth of the side hustle. This is where the micro entrepreneur really gets started, not only in Richmond, but in the United States. This is a birthplace for Black entrepreneurship in the United States. So you have people who know how to cook. Now they selling it out of grog shops. That's what they were called, out of their homes. People who can launder, metal workers, a host of different skills now being activated in this area with people's own anonymity. And so these people were able to make some money, oftentimes purchase their freedom, and remain in this area called, that would be Jackson Ward. And so when the Civil War ended and the amendments came down, they're looking at this area, and now these people have the opportunity to vote. They have money, they have a level of social and political savvy, they intend to use it, and white people, as I said earlier, were afraid of what that meant. And so here we have the first gerrymandered political district in the city of Richmond. You see the collapsing of these numerous wards into this one very large Jackson Ward. And please understand that Jackson Ward, when it was originally formatted, ran from the Carver District, for those who are familiar, all the way down to the Main Street station, where the African American burial grounds now are. That was the original footprint of Jackson Ward, and over years, it's been chopped, it's been screwed, it's shifted. And so I just wanted to make sure you all could see what actually happened here. And this middle map, all those red dots they show you, this is from 1852. This is pre-Civil War. This shows you all of the free Black people who had their own homes in 1852 in the city of Richmond. And most of those are concentrated in this area that I just spoke about. And so again, when we think about this idea of enslavement, when we think about what that meant in a place like Virginia, what we often don't think about is the amount of free people who were alive and doing well and creating spaces for themselves in Richmond, as this is a part of the undertold story of Black excellence that is connected to this space. All right, we can go to the next one. So kind of going back to Jackson, so we find this information, well, number one, we are disappointed at the fact that it's not named after Giles B. Jackson, because this was a gentleman who was quite, he deserved it. He was born enslaved in the early 1800s, mid-1800s, excuse me. He ended up being a body servant for a Confederate general. He was illiterate during that time. He was in his teens during that time, but somehow went on to not only learn how to read and write, but to become the first certified Black person to practice law in the state of Virginia. Not only that, he wrote a trilogy about the history, an anthology on the history of Virginia and Black people in this country, and then went on to create what would essentially be the first Black History Museum as a part of the Jamestown celebration that they had in the 1800s. he was a remarkable man. And so it made sense as to why people thought the area was named after him. But when we did the research, the timeline just didn't add up. He hadn't done that work yet. However, when we found out about the origin date, we were able to pull together a celebration to elevate the 150th anniversary. We called it Illuminating Legacy Giles B. Jackson Day. And with that, the mayor created a proclamation saying that September 10th, which is the birthday of Giles B. Jackson, is now Giles B. Jackson Day for the city of Richmond. And at least an acknowledgement, not a changing of who it was named after, but an acknowledgement of who it should be named after and who the space actually represents. That celebration was really lovely. We were all throughout the historical footprint of Jackson Ward. We had projections that were on buildings from Carver all the way down to the train station, and giving people a level of history and just some insight into the information that we found. When we did that, we thought we were done. I'm like, oh wow, this is great. What a nice contribution to be able to make to Richmond, to be able to make to the city, and to Jackson Ward itself. But the ancestors said, oh, not yet. So with that, we ended up finding out that most of the streets in Jackson Ward are named after either slaveholders, Confederate soldiers, or Confederate sympathizers. Blew our mind. And so with that, we're like, well, we can't let that be. So we did what ended up being the largest street sign installation in the city's history. And we were able to put up 14 different honorary street signs throughout Jackson Ward. We have those up in connection with the space, the original street signs, to offer a level of juxtaposition and hopefully inquiry, so that people can learn about the history of who Lee was on Lee Street that we know of. Who was Jackson? Who was Duval? Right? But then also to be able to elevate and celebrate the people who actually contributed to the legacy of Jackson Ward as we know it. Can we go to, let's go two forward, please. Actually, one forward, yeah. This is a photo of one of the street sign installations, as well as you'll see, if you walk around Jackson Ward, you'll actually see these JXN Ward spray painted pieces that are designed to help you kind of move through and help you navigate through Jackson Ward to be able to encounter these different street signs and give you different information. For those of you who have pulled up the program, you'll see the website, the Jackson Project on there, and it'll help to give you more information and let you know where you can find those intersections. Can we go to the next one? So with that, I will share with you a little bit about the people that we decided to elevate as a part of those street sign selections. We have A.D. Price. I'm sure most of you have heard of A.D. Price Funeral Home. It was one of the premier funeral homes in Jackson Ward. A.D. Price was a highly celebrated gentleman and part of a strong legacy. Billboard James Robinson, actor, very well known mostly for the work he did with Shirley Temple, born right here in Jackson Ward. And acting, we'll talk a little bit more about him in a moment. Charles Gilpin, he is a thespian and playwright out of Jackson Ward. Giles B. Jackson, we just discussed. John Jasper, the founder of Six Mount Zion. John Mitchell Jr., the creator of the Richmond Planet. Lily Estes, an advocate for Jackson Wardians, especially people who lived in Gilpin Court. We also have Lorna Pinckney. For those of you who have been in Richmond for a while, you may have heard of Versus. Versus right here on 2nd Street, a little further down the street. Lorna passed away a few years ago, and so it gave us an opportunity to also celebrate some of the contemporary contributors to the legacy. We also have Lucy Good Brooks, who created the Friends Asylum for Colored orphan, Magdalena Walker, who needs no introduction, right? Also, N.A. Everson, who I talked about a little earlier, who created the Everson Hotel. Oliver Hill, who was a part of Brown versus Board of Education. Oliver Hill, Rosa Nixon Bauer. Bauer, she was one of the first, she was the first Black teacher for Richmond Public School Systems in the late 1800s. And W.W. Brown. He actually put in the registration for the first Black-owned bank in the United States of America. These are all people that were born and had impact within a half-a-mile radius from where we're sitting today. And while we know a little about some, we don't know enough about them all. And so this is just, again, our effort to put a drop in the bucket. So we can go to the next one. I'm going to play another video for you. It'll talk a little bit about this project, this aspect of the project. And show you a little bit.
Here in Jackson Ward, so many people made a mark on history. We tell stories about the leaders that made this community known as the Harlem of the South.
To see the intersections of Black excellence that was Maggie Walker's life and her friends and the people that she supported and supported her reminded me of how much this neighborhood has impacted not just Richmond history, but American history.
Bless Lorna, she invited me into a space. This was the very first place as an artist in Richmond, like right here on Tuesday, the very first stage.
Jackson Ward has shown us all the models that we need to build and show our Black brilliance to the world.
Richmond Planet and St. Luke's Press, they worked together. They were competitors, but they had different stories to tell. They had different perspectives. And Jackson Ward was a home for things like that.
Everywhere you look, there's something about the life of Black people and the life of Richmonders that makes itself really clear right here in Jackson Ward. It's such an important place, and the stories connect us all to the history.
My father was born at the end of 2nd Street, and he died on 2nd Street. He operated a hotel there on the corner, sitting in East Street, Davidson Hotel.
As we celebrate this milestone, we have to all be reminded that we stand on the mighty shoulders of our ancestors. So to that end, we will keep history in the forefront.
Jackson Ward has been the cornerstone of Black community in Richmond for the past 150 years. Jackson Ward is not just a location, it is a state of mind. It's about family, faith, fellowship, the quest for freedom.
Jackson Ward has been essential in the empowerment of Black people and the empowerment of our city.
We tell stories of W.W. Brown and so many others. Jackson Ward gives us a sense of our past, but more importantly, it points directions to our future. This is living history.
The Black Wall Street, the Harlem, the South of Richmond, Virginia, can help us find our way home.
Black history
is America's history. And we're so proud to be able to tell those stories.
We really, really appreciate everything that you have done to lift us up and give us this moment to celebrate our ancestors in this space, in this moment, in this time of 2021. May our ancestors be pleased. Out to the deepest, may it be so.
So here, as we did that research on these particular figures, there was one that stood out, and it was the last sign that you saw in the video. It's a gentleman by the name of Abraham Skipwith. Abraham Skipwith was, we use the word remarkable often, but his story, his life was truly, it lives up to the definition of remarkable. And when we learned about this gentleman, it let us know that there was more work to do. And it was at this point that we decided to make Jackson a formal organization, because we understood that the pathway and the road that we were about to travel was a long one. And so before I get into Skipwith, I'll talk a little bit about the pillars that we put in place as the foundation for what Jackson represents. So it says here, Jackson is guided by a holistic framework with a focus on 8 key pillars: pedagogy, philanthropy, preservation, proprietorship, public art, public engagement, programming, public service, policy, and planning. We have done all that we can over the last few years. There's just 2 little black girls from Richmond, to live up to these pillars, and for however long Jackson ends up existing, we look forward to living up to those. And it's not just us, we do that in tandem with community. It's fundamental. I mean, that's what Jackson Ward represents, a level of interconnectedness with one another. That's why it's been able to exist for as long as it's had, even with the tumultuous realities that it's had to endure. I'll talk a little bit now about the social inquiry, because again, this came on board in 2020, 2021. We are coming out of COVID. We are post-George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, protests that really shifted the tide, that really helped to inform or give us what we thought would be a North Star for where this country was going to go. And understanding the importance of Richmond in that conversation was key. But also making sure that Richmond understood its role in that conversation, because I think a lot of times we don't always hold ourselves with the level of weight and value that we should. You know, we talk about even Black history, we talk about New Orleans, we talk about South Gullah Geechee, we talk about Philadelphia. But oftentimes Richmond is passed over. It's passed over by others, and sometimes even by our own selves. And so we put together a few questions, again, to act as a North Star. And so for the city. And one was, are we brave enough to pivot away from the one-dimensional enslaved narratives that no longer serve us, and take this opportunity at hand to elevate the best of our lineage and legacies, while recognizing that the historic preservation of the Black American experience is worthy of more than mere markers. Because that's what they often give us. We see the markers outside, and it's a space of pride. We should celebrate that. But when we have the Poe Museum, when you have the Edward Valentine Studio, right, that's held in a certain esteem, why is it that we don't have spaces that acknowledge Black history beyond maybe the Black History Museum, right? And so what does that mean for Richmond to make a level of commitment and investment to elevating Black history, Black narratives, and spaces, tangible spaces, that people can come and celebrate Blackness? Additionally, are we bold enough to celebrate the Black excellence in entrepreneurship that managed to not only survive, but to thrive in the face of social and systemic oppression, becoming a North Star in the former capital of the South and the Confederacy for the future generations to come? And then lastly, well, for us, we answered that question by saying we believe that the answer is yes. In a moment that is calling for swift, genuine, and accurate change, a call that JXN is committed to answering through the untold story of Abraham Payton Skipwith, who can serve as our compass. Often untold, but Skipwith was the first known Black homeowner in what would become Jackson Ward, and one of the first, if not the first, Black Richmonders and Virginians to establish a fully executed will. So when we learned about Abraham Payton Skipwith, we knew that his life, 100 years prior to the Civil War, and the work that he was able to do, was indeed a North Star not only for Jackson, but we think that it could be a North Star for the entire country. So I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible. So Abraham Payton Skipwith was enslaved by Jacqueline Ambler. This was Thomas Jefferson's council estate. So this gentleman was directly connected to the Founding Fathers as we know them. And that was beginning as early as 1767. In 1782, he was sold to another gentleman for 140 pounds. With this, he had a ton of different experiences, and you can only imagine the rooms that he was in and the level of information that he was able to amass. Information that led him to figure out a strategy on how to manumit himself. So he was able to save up enough money to purchase his own freedom in the in 1787, I believe it was. He not only purchased his own freedom, but he purchased the freedom of his wife, his granddaughter. He tried to purchase the freedom of his children, but he could not. And in addition to that, going back to William Byrd, I told you he would come up, the third. It was around this time that the Byrd family is running into a little bit of financial trouble. And so what they decided to do was to lottery off some of the property that they owned. They owned all the property in what would become Jackson Ward. So they set a lottery for that. Skipwith happened to know a white gentleman who was going to purchase some of that land. He gave him the money, and he bought his own plot. When he bought that plot, he not only built this home. Well, first of all, let me talk about the house. Okay, so it's a grand roof cottage. Miss, can we go to page 28? So this is a home that he built, him and his friends, or him and his compadres put together with their own might. He built this home for himself, his granddaughter, his wife, any children that that were able to come at some point. And not only did he purchase the home, but with the information he amassed, he figured out the importance of creating a will. And in this will, he was able to not only leave the home to future generations, but all of its belongings, to include a rifle, a carriage, gold shilling, and a host of other things. And so we found it just really fascinating that this gentleman, not in the 1800s, but in the 1700s, was able to execute this, create a will, keep a home in his family for over 100 years, and then in Black stewardship for another 50 years. And it would be in Black stewardship today, more than likely, if it wasn't for the creation of I-95, right? And so with that, as that video stated earlier, we were initially under the impression that that home was demolished like hundreds of other homes during that time period. Michael Paul Williams from the Richmond Times-Dispatch assisted us with some research, and he found that the home was actually dismantled and taken to Goochland, to a former plantation for the Secretary of War for the Confederacy. Now imagine what it meant for a black man to do the work that he had to do to get his own freedom, to purchase his home, only for it to be taken to a former plantation, and it's there to this day, and to be essentially held as a trinket, an esteemed treehouse for this family. We did find the family. We went out there. You can go to the next slide. We went out there with Gary Flowers. We went out there with Michael Paul Williams and a couple of other people. And with that, we were able to talk to the family about what it meant. This is the house currently. About what it meant to try to get the house back to Jackson Ward, where it belonged. This isn't y'all's house. And so we began a conversation with the family about what it meant to bring it back. And while it looked like it may happen, at some point they decided, because this family was also integral in the creation of that highway, in the destructions that was connected to Jackson Ward. And so they wanted to have a level of input on the information that was shared, and we wouldn't allow that. And so with that, we pivoted our plan and looked into what it would mean to still allow it to be a national site if we were to reconstruct it. We were able to get the okay on that, and so now we are in the process of recreating the Skipwith Roper Cottage right here in Jackson Ward, in between where Bilbo James Robinson was born and also Edgar Allan Poe's stepfather's law office. And so it's pretty remarkable that that land was deeded to us by the Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And we broke ground quite recently. And the goal is to have the cottage up and running by 2026 as a part of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. We know for a fact that, especially under this administration, any conversation that happens around the Declaration of Independence will be rooted in the Founding Fathers, Pennsylvania, Boston, and what it means for the Black and brown contribution during that time will likely get lost unless we are extremely intentional about what it means to elevate those stories. And so for us, we hope that this cottage, this tangible piece of history, can be a space of celebration, of memory, of acknowledgement, and something to help complicate the narrative that is often put forward around what it meant to be alive and what it meant to be Black in 1776. So, I want to say thank you. I know this was not a Gary Flowers dynamic keynote. Okay, I did. About Gary? Again? I did. Okay, I did. When we, earlier, I did. And so, you know, I hope, while I know that this was not, as I said, with the same level of energy that Gary would bring, I do hope that you walk away with a level of insight, a level of pride, and a level of connection to not only Jackson Ward and the history, but also the history that we all have the opportunity to make in this respective space each and every day. If you'd like to learn more about Jackson Project, the information is in the program. I invite you to go to the website. There's a ton of information on the website about the work we've done, about different figures connected, and then also you can learn more about Abraham Peyton Skipwith in the meantime. Okay? Again, shout out to Gary. I know he's up there doing good work. And thank you all very much for entertaining me. And I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelina. Oh, it's enlightening. You know, and it's fresh to know that you and others have come together and that this house will be rebuilt and have multiple purposes. And this is just creating a voice from the past. It's calling out, it's that same voice that was ringing out since enslavement and other atrocities, not asking for more than what is equitable, but simply what is right. And so this is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. At this time, we have greetings from the Eastern Region Legislative Chair of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated, and also Luncheon Chair Renee Cooper. Not because I'm short, I'm just being.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Everyone, let's give a round of applause to Angele for sharing that wonderful. I just want to take a quick second to thank Angele for stepping in at the last minute, actually just 2 days ago, to fill in for Gary Flowers, as you all know, who was initially our keynote speaker for today. I want to share with you all that I'm sure you all are as alarmed as I am with what is coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue these days. And Gary Flowers is a voice for us, just as Angele is as well. And initially, Gary was going to speak in Washington, D.C. today, following speaking for us today. He had 2 speaking engagements at 2 separate federal agencies on Black history, because not only is he a curator of the history of here, Jackson Ward, but also Washington, D.C. as well. Yes, absolutely amazing he is. However, our current president canceled both of his federal agency Black History Month presentations today. And he had to attend an all-Black leadership crisis meeting in Washington, D.C. this weekend. Our leaders, such as Mark Muriel, CEO of the National Urban League, our NAACP presidents, Al Sharpton, you name it, so many more. Our Congressional Black Caucus members, they are in this moment, and this is not mentioned in the news because they will not state it, but they are there to fight and stand up and speak on our behalf to the chaos that is taking place in the White House and push back on it on behalf of us, specifically focusing on the 14th Amendment and the eradication of birthright citizenship and the ability to exercise your due right process, meaning if your birthright citizenship is revoked, then you will have an ability to challenge it in court. Well, they want to remove that due right process so that you can't challenge it. So his not being able to be here with us today is for a reason that is much, much larger than our Black History Month luncheon here today. It is connected to it, but the work that they are doing right now is so much bigger. And my Gamma Delta committee members and myself are truly indebted and grateful for Angele to step in and be as great as a lecturer for our luncheon today. Thank you again. So, you all have joined us here at Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated, Gamma Delta. There's some sorors out there. Gamma Delta Black History Luncheon. And I agreed, or volunteered, to be the chair of our Black History Month activities. And this is one of them I'm pleased to have chaired. And so it is my pleasure to introduce to you all the president of Gamma Delta's chapter. But I want to share with you a little bit about my personal experience with joining Gamma Delta chapter and what we're all about, because many of you here may not be aware. Well, Gamma Delta chapter is a sorority for women in business, and I'll let my president talk to you more about that, and my regional director, who is here as well. But I will just say that I was at a luncheon just like this, and I passed out a flyer of my business. And one of the women who was at that luncheon kept my flyer and called me. And she came to my business. And at the time, I had a hair salon studio. And she scheduled and came in, and she walked in, and she saw pictures of different celebrities I've worked with as a hairstylist while in New York. And she was not expecting that and so impressed with that. And she stood for a minute and she looked around and she says, "Oh, this is impressive. My goodness. You should join Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated." And I said, "What is that?" And she said, "It's a sorority for women in business such as yourself. Black women owning business." I was like, "Really? Okay, sign me up." And she invited me to an interest meeting and took me through a rigorous process of onboarding into the sorority. And I have been so elated and pleased to have joined, to be able to serve as a soror, to be able to serve as a leader on committees. And I give all the thanks to her for asking me to join. And with that, I would like to introduce that person that came to my business. She is the current president of Gamma Delta's chapter of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gamma Delta's president, Mrs. Gail Davis.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my black queens. Hello. And my black kings.
Hello.
I think it would be appropriate if you all looked at each other and called each other what we are. Got people at your table? Address them. Queen. My black king. It kind of sounded enthusiastic, but I know you can do better than that. My task today, given to me by Sora Renee Cooper, was to talk about the national and our local chapter for Iota Phi Lambda Sorority. Iota Phi Lambda Sorority is not a divine nine, and that's why we have so many other women who have joined, who are deltas or whatever other sororities they're in, even if they're not the divine nine. We are a African American business women's group. We're sisters, we're business owners. When you join, you find friends, you find businesses, we network, we help in the community. At the national level, there are 70 chapters and over 1,400 members across the U.S., Washington, D.C., and St. Thomas Virgin Islands. St. Thomas Virgin Islands, we were there last year for our conference. This year, the conference is in Williamsburg in April. For a national, our convention is in Washington, D.C., where our headquarters is. However, the national was established in Chicago, Illinois, with Lola Mercedes Parker as the founder and president, and the first chapter was in Alpha. So, you know where it is, you know how it started. I'm going to tell you about our local chapter, Gamma Delta. Gamma Delta was established November 27, 1954, We currently have 32 members. We have an honorary SOAR. We have auxiliaries. We have Pilatai, who are helping hands. Do we have any Pilatai? Could you stand? Yes, ma'am, we want to see you. We don't have any Phil here. There are future IOTA leaders, but we do have our men of IOTA, our MOI. Can you please stand? And they've become fast friends, and they want to have their own little party and leave us alone. But they can't do that because the majority are our SOARs. Would you please stand, please? We're close-knit. We are a sisterhood. We own businesses, and we network with each other and support each other's businesses. So from looking around the room, you see the support is here. I am so glad for our guests who are here to support us in this endeavor. And I also am extremely appreciative of the committee and its committee members. I don't know who they all are, but I know they were working hard and having really long meetings, which I only wanted 5 minutes of. But the co-chair is here, Cynthia Stinchcomb. And the other members, because I don't want to leave anybody out, can you wave? Thank you so much. If there's anything else you need to know about IOTA, you know where to find all these ladies that you pinpointed when they stood up. You have our website here. There's more information. There's a wealth of information on things that we do. We're aiming for 100 chapters for 100th year. We're well on the way to that goal. Gamma Delta has produced 2 more chapters, one in Petersburg and one in New Kent. So if you see any of us, more than likely, now this day is different, you'll see a sea of green and white. Thank you so much for your time. Sora Audrey Douglas is going to come to give us a few words. She is also our SOAR of the Year for National.
Good afternoon. It certainly has been a long afternoon because oftentimes we, people of color of all shades, after we've eaten, we want to relax, sit back. I get it. Although I hail from South America, I do get it. But I want to thank the Black History Month Committee for doing such an outstanding job. But I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity just to share a few words with you. So first and foremost, greetings. On behalf of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority and our national president, Sarah Charlotte Berry, the Eastern Region Executive Committee, we are so grateful that you get an opportunity to sit, to listen, and to understand the importance of Black history, all that we are, all that we do, and all that we have represented to make these United States of America what it is today. So I am certainly honored, but now, more than ever, it is imperative to remember that we have faced the challenges that we are hearing about before. We know this journey extremely well. We hear the noise that tries desperately to stir chaos and to stir confusion in our minds and in our hearts. However, I want you to continue to embrace as the president of the NAACP said, poise over panic. I repeat, poise over panic. Let us not be intimidated or shaken by threats. Remember that just because an executive order is signed does not mean it can be executed or that it is legal. So at this pivotal moment in time, while the current president is in the early days of his term, 17 days, and he's got 1,400 more to go, who's counting? We must remain smart. We must be methodical. We must be bold. We must do the things that will make a real difference. The NAACP, the BWA, the Urban League, we all encourage you to remember haste and space. What do we mean by that? We want you not to rally around the initial messages that are coming from the White House. They are coming too quickly, too fast, too numerous, and most of them do not make sense. But then again, look who the person is that lives in that White House on 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue. It is what you expect to get. But they want you to be confused. They want you to be shaken. They want you to say, woe is me, and that is not who we are. So do allow these issues and these orders to breathe so that our thoughts can be constructive and not destructive. No one, I repeat, no one can take away our diverse thinking, our drive for fairness and equality, and our relentless quest to have a seat at the table. Not because of the color of our skin, but because of the content of our character and the intellectual capital of our minds. For we, because we come in all shades of brown, we are brilliant. We're not stupid. Trevor Martin, who is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications, I had an opportunity to chat with him. He works for the NAACP, and he said, I want you to remember a part of a video that he shared. It was a gentleman, Pastor Moss, and he gave this as part of his sermon last Sunday, and I'm just going to give you just a few of his words. He said, there is undoubtedly something extraordinary about you, black people. You must be pretty special if an entire movement felt the need to create a Project 2025 to erase your contributions, remove your genius, marginalize your brilliance, disenfranchise your power, trick your participation, and miseducate the nation's children. He says, maybe you don't realize how powerful you are. Billionaires funded, lawyers plotted, think tanks studied, politicians gathered, insurrectionists planned, entire news networks broadcast, and a so-called president gave executive orders all to quiet the power of a people who will not be silenced. So my sorors, invited guests, MOIs, friends, we are up to the challenge. And as Maya Angelou oftentimes reminded us, and still I rise. All right. So together, in closing, together, let us envision and work toward a future where there is no division or judgment based on the color of one's skin, race, or nationality. Let us rise. Let us be united in pursuit of a world where all are judged by the content of their character and the strength of their contributions. The road ahead may be long, but we've been down this journey before. And we know that with hope, resilience, and unwavering unity, we will create a better, a brighter future for you, for I, and for the next generations to come of people who are black and brown in different shades. And still, we shall rise. Thank you.
Thank you for those words of inspiration. I now would like to turn to Foster Solomon, actor, writer, and director who has been active in theater and film for over 4 decades in Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles, St. Louis, and the Richmond area where he calls home. Professor Solomon can be found teaching in the theater and communications departments at Bright Point Community College. His acting highlights include the roles of Hamlet, Pozo in Waiting for Goodyear, and Lincoln in Top Dog, Underdog. Foster is extremely proud of his creative team that brought Gabriel the Musical to life, the story of the slave rebellion of 1800 that took place here in Richmond. Solomon's work as director, writer, and lead is a true culmination of his talents in his feature film, Hawks Ridge, where the preacher, it focuses on a grieving black preacher who saves the life of the white man that killed his wife. The movie can be seen on Amazon Prime and Tubi. And just recently, I directed it here in Richmond when he adapted it for stage. I bring you Foster Solomon.
Good afternoon. All right, I would be remiss if I also did not bring up, and Renee, I'll send you the flyers for it. 2.5 years ago, I was invited by Rowan University in New Jersey, of all places. How they heard about me, I don't know, to remount a play that I wrote almost 2 decades ago, a one-woman show called The Penny Executive about the life of Maggie L. Walker. We remounted it up there, a wonderful actress by the name of Aisha Todd. It's a one-woman show. She plays over 20 characters. She plays Maggie Walker and everybody else in Maggie Walker's life. We brought it to Bright Point Community College, which used to be John Tyler. I have to usually say that. I go Bright Point, also known as John Tyler. Down in the Midlothian to the campus, to the Lynn Theater that is down there. And we are bringing it back in 2 weeks. February 20th at 7 p.m. and Friday the 21st at 1 p.m. I'll send flyers so that can be given to everybody. So, yeah, I was just like, it's a shameless plug, but I feel like it's kind of necessary for me to say it. I am about to deliver what is rarely heard by most people. What most people know as the I Have a Dream speech is really only the last 3 minutes of the 10-minute speech that he delivered in front of the Lincoln Memorial for the March on Washington. So this is the entire I Have a Dream speech. 50 years ago, a great American, in whose symbolic shadow we stand here today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who have been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro still languishes in the corners of American society and finds himself an exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise to all men, yes, black men as well as white men, and would guarantee the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious that today America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check. A check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity in this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us, upon demand, the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off, or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. The sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads to the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us all to a distrust of all white people, for many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied with our destiny. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we must always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating, "For whites only." We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes there is nothing for which there is for him to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. So, I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring." And if America is to be a great nation, then this must become true. So, let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Thank you.
Thank you, Foster. And we want to say from all of us, break a leg, because Foster's on his way to his next performance. And, Mary, okay? So, I was speaking with the chair, Renee Cooper, about my desire to present a piece of history with a theater presentation. I'm sure its content has been whispered maybe by elders. My grandfather died at 104 in 2021. He was a fountain of knowledge through experiences and had many stories similar to the one that you're about to hear. We were lucky to get J. Ron, and after his performance earlier today, he came straight here. Actor J. Ron Fleming Jr., also a Howard University Bison. Are there any other Bisons in the house? Studied under Ernie McClintock, renowned actor teacher. J. Ron has graced almost every professional stage here in Richmond, and he plays roles such as Avery in The Piano Lesson, Grant Wiggins in A Lesson Before Dying, Troy and Bono in Fences. That's just to name a few. But what always sticks out is my productions that he has performed, such as Mr., Avery, and some other roles in The Color Purple. He was also the minister and father of 3 of the ladies in the cast of Crowns. And he played recently Martin in Gabriel, which was directed by Foster Solomon and choreographed by myself. This list does not touch his body of works by any stretch of the imagination. These words cannot explain how he can make each character stand out while playing multiple roles in one show. But it will give you a glimpse into his talents. J. Ron Fleming Jr.
We stand on the shoulders of giants. Let me hear you say that. We stand on the shoulders of giants. In the spirit of the Akan people of Ghana, it's important for us to practice our Sankofa, to look to yesterday, to understand how best to inform and proceed to tomorrow. How is it that the great people of Africa were brilliant and strong enough to survive the Middle Passage, chattel slavery, the Black Codes, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, massive resistance, segregation, massive incarceration, and on and on and on. From 1936 to 1940, a federal program commissioned just under 3,000 writers to travel throughout what we know as America to chronicle the lives of people across the landscape. Many of the people of our culture were in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and some were even over 100. Many of them right here in Virginia. One of these people was a man named Beverly Jones, who told the story of pre-emancipation, what it was like to live under the Black Code system, and even in worship. Hear now the words of Beverly Jones. I said I wasn't gonna tell nobody, but I couldn't keep it to myself. Oh, I couldn't keep it to myself. Oh, I I said I wouldn't go tell nobody, but I couldn't keep it to myself what the Lord has done for me. Church, you ought to have been there, you ought to have been there when he saved my soul. Church, you ought to have been there, you ought to have been there when he put my name on the road. Well, I started walking, I started talking, I started singing, I started shouting, oh, what the Lord has done for me. I said I wouldn't go testify, but I couldn't keep it to myself. Oh, I couldn't keep it to myself. Oh, I couldn't keep it to myself. I said I wouldn't go testify, but I couldn't keep it to myself what the Lord has done for me. Church, you ought to have been there, you ought to have been there when he saved my soul. Church, you ought to have been there, you ought to have been there when he put my name on the road. Well, I started walking, I started talking, I started singing, I started shouting, oh, what the Lord has done for me. Amen. Amen. I had my crowd right here. On Sundays, they would let us go to church up at Sassafras Stage near Bethel. Was the first church for niggas in these parts. Wasn't no white church. Niggas built it. And they had a nigger preacher. Of course, they wouldn't let you have no services less than a white man was present. Most times the white preacher would preach. Then he would sit there and listen while the colored preacher preached. That was the law at the time. Couldn't no nigger preacher preach less than a white man was present, and they paid the white man what attended the colored services. Niggas had to sit there and listen to that white man's sermon. But they didn't want to, because they knowed it by heart. Always took his text from Ephesians, the white preacher did. The part where it said, obey your master, be good servant. And I had to tell you how many times I done heard that text preached on. They always tell the slave he be good and work hard for his master, then he would go to heaven. And there, he was going to live a life of ease. They ain't never tell him he going to be free in heaven. You see, they didn't want the slave to start thinking about freedom, even in heaven. Uncle Silas was near about 100, I reckon. Too feeble to do no work. Always got strength enough to holler to church when the slave service gonna be. Old preacher named Reverend Johnson. Forget the rest of his name. He was preaching, and the slaves were sitting there sleeping and fanning themselves with oak branches. And Uncle Silas got up in the front row of the slave pew and halted Reverend Johnson. Is God gonna free us slaves in heaven? The preacher stopped and looked at Uncle Silas like he gonna kill him. Because ain't nobody supposed to say nothing except amen when he preached. Waited a minute he did, looking hard at Uncle Silas standing there, but didn't give no answer. Is God gonna free us slaves when we get to heaven? Old white preacher pulled out his handkerchief, wiped the sweat from his face. Jesus said, come unto me, ye who are free from sin, and I will give you salvation. He will give us freedom along with salvation. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away, preached the preacher. Then he went on preaching fast like without paying no attention to Uncle Silas. but Uncle Silas wouldn't sit down. Stood there the rest of the service he did, and that was the last time he come to church. Silas died for another preaching time come around. Reckon if you found out whether or not he gonna be free, sooner than he calculated. When the angel carried me home, when the angel carried me home, I want to see Jesus most of all. When the angels carry me most of all, when the angels carry me home.
Thank you so much, Javon. Thank you. The universal language of movement used since the beginning of time, whether it is being done by God's creatures or his human masterpieces, there simply is no substitute. Conveying a message by simple or sometimes intricate variations in steps, tempo, highs and low dynamics is eye-catching, it's stimulating, it often elicits some type of response or emotion. We are fortunate this afternoon to have Mrs. Laquita Bruce to feature a selection of African dance. I bring to you now, Mrs. Bruce.
She was going to introduce her sorority sister, Mrs. Bethany Mickles, Esquire. And I have the honors of doing so as my soror, Laquita Bruce, is handling some sounds in the back for us and logistics back there. So she asked me to do the honors on her behalf. I have the pleasure of introducing Bethany Mickles, our next performance to you. Bethany is a 2005 summa cum laude graduate of North Carolina Central University School of Law in Durham, North Carolina, where she received her Juris Doctorate and Master of Library Science degrees, respectively. She is currently enrolled in the Nonprofit Management Graduate Professional Certificate Program at Duke University. Bethany also holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Human Services Counseling from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. In 2019, she was appointed by the Supreme Court of Virginia as a judicial officer of the Commonwealth. She presently serves as a hearings officer and administrative law judge for the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles in Richmond, Virginia. Anybody want to run now? Got your license straight? We got your license straight, okay. All right. And she previously served as the Artistic Director of World of Dance Performing Arts Company since 2006 and was honored as a Businesswoman of the Year by Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Atlanta chapter of 2021 specifically. With her dance company, she has performed locally, nationally, and internationally, from New York to Las Vegas to Nigeria and India. She is a member of the Junior League of Lynchburg Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity. And that's the Virginia chapter of the Links Incorporated. She is also a member of. To include Top Ladies of Distinction, Central Virginia chapter. And she is a member of CGXC Multicultural Sorority, Acris Indian Dance Group, and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Bethany greatly enjoys competing in beauty pageants and modeling. She presently holds the beauty pageant titles of Classic Miss Greater Richmond, Virginia Star Achievement of 2024 and Miss U.S. Virgin Islands Universe United Miss 2024 and has been a featured model in numerous fashion and pageant publications as well as the New York Fashion Week. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you African dance presentation by Mrs. the Honorable Bethany Mickles, Esquire. Okay, and joining Mrs. Bethany Mickles when they will perform will be Mrs. Carloon Canada to perform along with her. Let's give them both a round of applause.
Guys, you all know where the bathrooms are. If anybody needs to take a bathroom break, but we need about a 5-minute intermission, they are putting on their regalia. Okay, they have a lot of stuff to put on. So they're putting that on and they're gonna be ready to dance, okay? So take this moment, we're gonna play some music. And so we're gonna do the raffle. We got time, we can do the raffle. Thank you for that reminder. On the tables, there is some cups, clear cups. For those of you that came in, you got a raffle ticket. So out of the raffle ticket, Sora Kim is picking those up. And we're gonna go ahead and get those raffles. And you guys feel free to move about, to stretch your legs. Y'all been sitting a while. Take a bathroom break, get some more water. I promise you, when we come back, it's gonna be worth the wait. I promise you. We're gonna liven this place up, right?
Just tell us when, Bethany.
Okay, I'll tell you. Well, hello everyone.
Hello.
Happy Black History Month to all of you. Thank you for joining us today. I am Bethany Mickles, Esquire, and I am the Artistic Director of World of Dance Performing Arts Company. We are based in Lynchburg, Virginia. We have had the pleasure of performing all over the world. So from Nigeria to India to Belize to the Caribbean, all over the place. So today we're going to take you on a journey. And the journey is a journey with African traditional dance. So we're going to start with dance from Africa, and then we're going to show you how that dance has influenced other dance styles in the diaspora. Because you know, when African slaves were brought from Africa to this part of the world, they brought with them their dances, they brought with them their rhythms, they brought with them their music. And so you can see the influence very heavily in other styles of dance. So our program will not be like just a continuous. We're going to do a little bit, teach you a little bit, show you a little bit of stuff. Then we're going to do a quick change, and we'll come back and show you some other styles. So that way you'll experience more than just the West African traditional dance. So we are starting with dance from Guinea. So Guinea is located in West Africa, and I had the pleasure of performing there in 2019. This dance is called Sunu. And Sunu is a wedding dance, hence the white garments that we have on. And so we're going to teach you a little song, because in West Africa, whenever there are dance programs and events, they always start with singing, and then from the singing comes the drumming, and then comes all the movements. So Sunu is a beautiful girl, and there's a gentleman in the village that wants to marry this particular lady, but they can't find her because she's not so sure that she's ready to get married yet. So, a woman after my own heart. So anyway, so we're gonna start the song, and the song is basically saying, where is Sunu? Where is Sunu? We're looking for her. Where is Sunu? And so we will start, it's gonna be like a call and response, and so we will tell you what you have to say. So, the words are, Mea e, Sunu bini ma. Mea e, Sunu bini ma. And so we are gonna sing first, and then you will sing after us. So one more time, just so I can make sure that you have the words correct. So, Mea e, Sunu bini ma. Sunu bini ma. So we will sing first, and then I will point to you, and you will sing the same. Well, let me teach you the tune. I guess so that way it'll flow nicely. So the tune is Mea e, Sunu bini ma. And you say Mea e, Sunu bini ma. Back to me. Mea e, Sunu bini ma. You. Mea Sunu bini ma. And so as we're singing this, we will be walking and we'll be looking. So you can go ahead and start the music for dance number 1. Mea e, Sunu bini ma. You. Sunu basically an entrance step, and then we will teach you one kind of jumping step. And so we're going to do these in a circle. So I'm going to show you the first step that we did to make our entrance onto the dance arena. So the step starts with your right foot and your left foot. So right hand, left hand. Right hand, and left hand. Right hand, and left hand. So remember to bend your knees. That's like rule number 1 of African dance. But with this step, you're kind of going to be on your toes a little bit. So it's going to be like this, like this. Right and left, and right and left. Then we're going to add a hip shake. Okay? So it looks like this. Watch first. So right, left, and shake, and shake. Okay? Yeah. Let's try that. 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, left, shake, and shake. Right, left, shake, and shake. Right, left, shake, shake. Right, left, shake, and shake. Okay, so we're going to be doing that moving in a circle. Okay? And so the other step that we will show you, which one do you think we should show? Which one? Like the shake set. They look like they maybe can pick it up. So, Corey, I'm going to show them. Show them how it's done.
No problem.
Show them how it's done.
All right, so it's like a, was it hip set? So it's kick your foot.
Yeah.
Drop, drop, squat, shake, 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 shake. And then drop it, just shake, shake, shake.
So again, if you actually, I would tell you the secret is to turn.
Yes.
So don't just do this in place. You can turn and go this way.
Yeah.
Turn.
balls.
All right.
So it's a twerking kind of thing.
This is where all of that came from.
Exactly.
All right.
I know twerking when I see it.
All right, so let's try that again. So 5, 6, 7, 8, and
Down.
and shake, 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 shake. Turn. Shake, 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 shake. Okay, I think we're ready for some music. So just play our song. Same song to them.
They got PET and
We're gonna make a circle. While we're waiting for the music to start, we want engagement from the audience. Afro-Puerto Rican Bamba Dance.
All right.
Okay, so we're back now. The next style of dance that we're going to show you is Afro-Puerto Rican Bamba Dance. And so, again, as I said, when African slaves came to America and they were brought over to this part of the world, they brought with them their rhythms. And Bamba is one of the most authentic African styles of dance that you will see here in the diaspora. So the particular style of dance of Bamba that we do is from a place called Loíza, which is in Puerto Rico. And the reason why we do the Loíza style of Bamba is because it's heavily grounded in African dance. And so if you go to Loíza, you will see most of the people look kind of like the people in this room. So you'll see a heavy population of black people and people of direct African descent. So one of the things that I love about Bamba dance is that Bamba is a conversation between the dancer and the drummer. So the drummer will play different rhythms, and then the dancer will try to mimic those rhythms with her body movements or her dance movements. And so it's a back and forth conversation. So one of the things I really love doing is going to live bandazos, where there are live Bamba drummers, and you can have a conversation with the drummers. It's so much fun. So the dance that we're going to do is a Loíza style of Bamba, and here we go, African Puerto Rican Bamba dance.
All right.
Es la negra Martina que brinca por los palacios, cayó dentro de una olla, de bandazo entre las mallas. De bandazo a ella, de bandazo, anda ella, de bandazo. Ay, que de bandazo, la negra Martina cayó en la malla, de bandazo. De bandazo a ella, de bandazo, anda ella, de bandazo. Se pasaba todo el día buscando en palacio, a ver si alguien la quería, pero todo fue un fracaso. De
earth. They can be used as a powerful healing tool. And Haitian dance, we love performing Haitian dance. We always meet many Haitians when we're out and about doing our dances. So this will be the last style that we will show you today. So Haitian dance. The one that says front edit. So it should be the front of the only if you could sing. Only if you're if you can, like it's on YouTube, but we have an edit, so we cut it. That's the only thing.
The camera has my son.
The only thing is like it's gonna keep like loose. Yeah, I can tell you that.
He was in on me too.
Okay. Our beginning, our ending code was like an hour.
You got it from his mama for real, but dad ain't working.
You want me to write it for you? Let me know when you're ready.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. He's gonna learn here shortly. I can't wait till my time. Trump get ready to put him to retirement too. In a few minutes. Hey, see, this is over one to kill this shit. I'm surviving, boy. I know that's fine.
From the MP3, it'll play on YouTube.
Just keep taking. Just keep your gas tank low. My finger on the trigger. Yeah. Stuff being a goddamn Trump.
But turn it on.
I'm doing my job.
Madame, ou qui se pied à terre ou cabane, la bombe va bien loin, qui vient en ville piquant, Monsieur, en bas soleil, pas nous c'est contradiction, pour tout le monde à hauteur, marcher pied à terre, madame, comment ou carré les petits soucis là, côté mon racaille, allez bousquer de l'eau, monsieur, et puis moi tout petit, moi t'es connaît, soucis là yo relé, t'as raison, maman t'es qu'on allait, papa t'es qu'on allait, famille Chimbolo mchisi okazudor. Saka pase la cayo eti weo. Saka pase la convoy Saka pase la cayo eti weo. Saka pase la convoy Madame Sa.
Thank you so much for having us and have a wonderful Black History Month.
All right.
Great job, thank you. Great job.
Thank you, ladies. That was so beautiful. We were really blessed by that beautiful performance. We'd like to thank you all very much for joining us this evening. And before we close out the evening, I'd like to do a special recognition for a sponsor that we received for today's event and further work through the Reform Alliance Company that donated $2,000 sponsorship to IOTA Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated Gamma Delta Chapter. And that sponsorship representative is with us today. His name is Mr. Sincere Boyne, who is in the back. Sincere, could you please come forward and share what Reform Alliance is all about? We are going to borrow 2 minutes of his time for him to inform us of the work that Reform Alliance does. Thank you.
First of all, I appreciate Renee asking me to come and being able to sponsor. I'm thankful. This was an excellent event, and hopefully we'll keep going next year after. But yes, I'm the state organizer for Reform Alliance. It's a policy organization that was started by Meek Mill, Jay-Z, and a bunch of millionaires that saw a need for change in our probation and parole system. So I work with a lot of the state organizations here that do direct service work for individuals that are returning home from long-term incarceration, and also with youth to help prevent them from going down certain paths. So I'm thankful again for the opportunity that Renee has given me, and you ladies are wonderful.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I would like to introduce the committee of the Black History Month Committee, who spent hours upon hours, days upon days, contributing their talents, skills, and gifts to make this evening a very special and wonderful Black History Month luncheon celebration. And I certainly do hope that you all have enjoyed it as much as I have. So with that said, I would like to ask my soror, Dr. Cynthia Stitchcomb, to please come forward, as she is my co-chair for the event. And I'd like to ask my soror, LaQuita Bruce, to please come forward. She served as the finance director for this evening. And I'd like to ask my soror, Sherry Brown, to please come forward. Sherry Brown is responsible for the beautiful decor that you see here. And I'd like to ask my soror, Gwendolyn Cody Davis, if you could please come up. Gwendolyn Corey Davis, she led us in prayer every Zoom meeting that we had in planning this activity. We had our, yes, absolutely. absolutely. She was excellent in bringing us in prayer. And I'd like to bring up my soror, Kimberly Jordan. The program that you all have used during this program, and on your phones, the QR code, the beauty of it, all of it, the detail of it, every bit of it, the program you received, the video you received, all about print and media marketing. Soror Kim is the director of marketing for this event. Ladies, I just want to say that when I signed our sales spreadsheet to be the chair for the Black History Month committee, I had a vision of a gala. And you all have really shown me what being a soror is all about, because you stepped in and said, I'm here to help you, I'm there for you. What do you need, soror? I got your back. And I've literally heard those words, and not only have heard those words, but have felt those words through these months of planning this activity. Thank you all for your steadfast resilience and support, contributions, your outstanding talent. Your love is my sister and soror. I thank you so much, and I love you so much for your contributions. Let's join and give them a round of applause. Okay.
Smile, Queen.
All right.
You got the song? You got the song?
We will finalize this evening's activity in line dance. So we'd like anyone that enjoys line dancing to please come on up to the stage.
Don't y'all leave me hanging.
We will conclude the evening. Thank you all so much.
We're gonna try it. I go through it one time with y'all.
And get home safe. Thank
I'm just going to lay this.